Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to this week's STEMCast podcast. As you can see, we've rebranded to STEMCast since we've expanded to STEM podcast, not just math. Obviously, we'll still be having a lot of STEM stuff on there since I'm very passionate about that, and I know our guests will be as well. So we're just trying to expand it a little bit more so we can cover a wider variety of topics linking to STEM, obviously, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And today I am joined by an academic scholar in year 8 who was also the first episode that I filmed with, so I thought it would be nice to do a little 1 year
anniversary kind of
rebrand. It was really nice, and we've upgraded a lot since the first time.
Where we were first time it was just two geeks crouching with a microphone. Now we've got laptops and really cool technology and that kind of thing.
Hopefully the audio is also reflective of
clearer.
So what are we covering today?
So today's just going to be an introduction to STEM because it's a bit harder to understand than maths, and we're going to be sharing what STEM is, why we care about it, and how you guys can get involved with STEM and encourage your friends to do STEM as well.
Yeah, so STEM is kind of from a surface level, it's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but we want to kind of go a little bit more in depth of like what is it actually like, and what is the kind of exploration element of it, because a lot of times when people think of science, technology, engineering, or maths, it's very much textbook based and like schoolwork based, so we're kind of trying to display the fun and enthusiastic element of it.
So science and maths are quite easy to understand. We've all done those in school. But technology and engineering are a bit more obscure, a bit more like university, the world of work. Technology is like, the best school subject I can put it to is ICT or computer science. It's working with modern technology like robots, AI, software and hardware to improve people's lives.
Allow me to interrupt you. Science and maths are not easy subjects to grasp. I think you kind of meant that in a way of like the exploration side of it, that they're easy to kind of like comprehend.
Yeah, I meant they're more like mainstream, like more people understand basics of science and maths.
They're more, I think also part of that is that technology is ever changing rather than math. It's a little bit more like rules and
like we learned Pythagoras and he did that like, I don't know, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was very flexible kind of a while ago because there were no really fundamentals set, and I think we'll talk about that in one of our future episodes with like the difference between them and why, because technology is ever changing. You see, like a month or two ago there was ChatGPT which released, and it's like
it's
all
changed
over
the world.
everywhere. Yeah, it's genuinely like jobs especially are probably going to decrease quite a bit with AI as well, because a lot of things that like people can do in terms of jobs can be easily replaced with AI.
It's almost scary how fast things can go, because that was overnight that ChatGPT got released, and it was just an overnight success, and the world was changed in 24 hours.
Yeah, I think also part of technology is it's like anyone can do it if you just know how to, like if you learn to code, anyone can be the next Microsoft. Or I think there was like a story about Microsoft, how he started in his bedroom with like his laptop, and all these cool games that we have currently are kind of on a similar story. So it kind of scares me for what's to come in terms of technology.
But there's a reason why every tech mogul has the same story of starting in their bedroom. That's how you get out there, by just starting.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence as well, like you said. Like, it's crazy to think about how many people know how to code, but they just don't take it the extra step further of trying to become a builder and trying to build their own ideas and innovating these new technologies and stuff. So that's enough about technology. Let's talk a little bit about engineering. So engineering, like buildings, so it's very much
mechanical.
Also there is Humble Pie, which talks about the error of engineering.
That's one of our favorite books.
Yeah, I honestly love Humble Pie. It's very maths and engineering based. I don't think there's much science or technology in there, but it's really good, and I really recommend it. And I think it's good to mention it on the first episode as well, since I love Humble Pie.
It was the first book from the first STEM book I read. I was super into fiction before I read Humble Pie.
I wish that was the first book I read. It would have really gotten me. I think the first book I read was Alex's Adventure in Numberland.
She hates that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. Like,
I love it. I think it's fun. That's very maths though.
Yeah. We had to debate for a different podcast. We're going on a bit of a tangent here. But there's a lot of curiosity-based topics on STEM, like so many things. I get so many questions with the enthusiastic aspect of math, not just like this is this theorem and I have questions on that. I think it's more about the enthusiastic element of it and the reading element of it that I have so many questions on. I think it's the same for you as well, yeah?
Yeah, like everyone thinks that maths, science, technology, engineering is right or it's wrong. You get the degree or you don't get the degree. There's no room for creativity, but there's so much room for creativity because of course there's rules that you have to follow, but it's about how you mess with those rules and play around and you get such interesting results.
Yeah, I think that's the element that I want to portray on this podcast, especially because I think that's so underrated and not that many people know about that aspect to maths and that aspect to technology. I mean, I think technology is a lot more known for its creativity and innovation just because it's something that we use every day.
It's a bit more modern as well.
Yeah, I think it's just with math and science that's a bit more this is right and this is wrong, this like that. I think that's kind of a bit more of an element that I want to show. And engineering mistakes is also something I want to cover later on. So if anyone's interested to do any of these ideas with me, then let me know. It'll be super fun to record.
So obviously we're here, so STEM is really important to us. And I'm just curious, because how did you get into STEM?
So for me, I think I always enjoyed logical thinking. I think not just with math, even way before that, when I was learning things and stuff, I was very curious, just outside of STEM completely. I think I was a very curious person. I used to ask a lot of questions about the most random things. I think my parents used to tell me that, and I think that's kind of part of why I'm here right now, because I don't know if you heard, but I did an Evolve talk on curiosity, and I honestly, every single word of that was a reflection of one of the main parts of me. I like to think that I ask a lot of questions about different things, so I think math really stuck with me first, and then I'm just super interested in all the things that kind of can be applied to our world, but also so many theoretical things like paradoxes. Paradoxes are genuinely
That's so interesting.
They're so interesting.
You can just do them forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, and most of them are about infinity as well. Infinity is just it genuinely puzzles me so much, but it's also super interesting to think about, because when you genuinely think that there are an infinite numbers between 1 and 2 and an infinite numbers between 1 and 1.1, then there are so many numbers. Infinite. Yeah, they're just infinite. I think that's the best way to put it.
That was kind of for me too. I was a very annoying child, in which case I asked so many questions, but I never really liked maths until I got to secondary. I feel like in primary school we were more just learning column method, and I was good at it because I'm quite good at dealing with numbers, but I never enjoyed it. But when we got to secondary, it was when I read that first book and when I discovered that maths is more than just completely abstract numbers, and that you apply it to real life, and that it literally governs absolutely everything we do, and science does that as well. It really made me more curious about it, because I realized that maths is controlling all of us. It sounds really creepy when you say that, but maths controls everything, and it's so comprehensive.
Yeah, and it's the same for science as well, but science is a bit more the study of the math behind it, especially for example for physics. It's this math exists, but this is the explanation of why it exists. I think physics is a lot more discovery rather than inventing it, where math, parts of it are inventions, parts of it are discoveries. That's a bit of a debatable topic as well that I want to cover a little bit later on. But let's talk about possible STEM careers. So there are so many opportunities for careers within STEM, and I think engineering is a big one as well.
Engineering is a massive one. It's really boomed in the last couple of years. We've got so many demands for especially software engineers, and in the last couple of months, prompt engineers for AI. So engineering is probably the biggest career that comes to mind when we look at STEM. We have so many science careers. Many people think science is just, I want to be a scientist. And that's way too general, because of course you have biology, chemistry and physics, but there are so many overlapping things. I'm really interested in biochemistry, which is the chemistry of how biological beings and functions work. So for example, metabolism, things in cells, diseases, and I really want to get into that. I have lots of career options. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but biochemistry is really high up the list. I just find it so interesting how the body works. And there's a million biochemistry subsets as well. Molecular biochemist, the enzymologist who deals with enzymes. So science is a massive one as well, from doctors to space scientists. science is probably the most comprehensive in my opinion.
I think one of the other things that comes to mind is being someone that deals with data and being someone that deals with statistics, because there are so many things. I think there was a book that I read, like, I'm not sure what it was called, but it was like 10 ways that people are like how data can manipulate people and stuff. And it sounds like a little bit kind of creepy at first, like you said. I think you mentioned it before, but it sounds a little bit weird when you first think about it. But it talked about 10 things that people can use to mess with data to make you believe something, even though it may not be true. So, for example, like using data to influence your emotions or influence your opinions. So, for example, if it says that we interviewed homes in this place and they came out with 90% of them said this, how do you know that all the homes were interviewed? How do you know which area it was in? There's a lot of factors that influence this, and I think kind of manipulating data, especially for big tech companies or companies that want you to think a certain way, I think that's super influential, I think, with data as well, because data can play a lot in people's minds, a lot more than you want it to. I think if I remember the name of the book, I'll recommend it.
Yeah, being able to work with data and compress massive amounts of numbers into what people want to show off, that's really lucrative. You can get lots of money from being a statistician. But on the other side of maths, there's the rich mathematicians, like the statisticians, the data engineers, but there's also more academia-based things, so researchers who are working to crack theorems. For example, Fermat's last theorem, there's a great book on that called Fermat's last theorem, another recommendation there, was solved by a guy called Andrew Wiles, and he worked as a researcher, so that's basically just sitting in a university trying to crack problems, and that's another dream job of mine. You just sit and do maths all day, and for some people that's horrific, but it's not sitting trying to solve equations, it's sitting and experimenting with the rules of equations to make brand new things that will help benefit our world. So maths is quite broad as well.
I think the book I was talking about is How to Make the World Add Up. I'm pretty sure this is the one, but I'm not 100% sure. But pretty much the book that I was talking about was talking about how to manipulate statistics and how people do that in order to get the outcome that they want, essentially, and kind of display that things are a certain way. Also, there's astronomy. I think you're very interested in that as well.
I'm very strongly interested in astronomy. I always have been. I did an Evolve talk on it as well, but that was when I was like 9, so it was a bit bad. But space is so amazing. It's just massive, and there's so much stuff going on in it.
It's super creepy as well to think that there's so much that we still haven't explored, and we're only in this like really small part of it.
No one realizes how improbable life is. Like, there's so many random things that should have never happened with like a 0.1000001% of happening that all led to the life we have today. And learning about space and how fragile it all is just, it's scary, but it's so fascinating as well.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating as well to think about what you said with probability. Like, it doesn't really link to space, but there was also a book I read or like some video I watched. I'm not sure. I think it was Matt Parker. He did a Royal Institution lecture about that, and it was about how these two people, they met like this, they were married, and she took a picture at Disneyland when she was like 6, and in the background of that photo, he was in it. He was in it. It was I found it so interesting that coincidence could just happen.
And when we scale that up, that's why I'm so interested in space. Like, I always give the example of the sun. No one knows that the sun could collapse at any time. The sun is pulled in by massive force and is only kept outwards because the gases reacting inside it produce loads of hydrogen. And if that stopped, the sun would explode and we'd all die. And that's the fragility of space, and that's why I find it so interesting. And that is what STEM basically is. It's charting our world and all the crazy improbabilities that make us existing possible. And I don't think anything could be more creative or interesting than that.
And I think as well, linking to what we do in school currently, which may seem quite uninteresting, but like learning how to knowing the area of a trapezium isn't really going to help you in real life. But when we come to think about it, all these basic things that you know come up to and build to that end goal, which is why I find it so interesting and why I take it on board with such passion and enthusiasm. Just because I know that there is an end goal of the stuff that I'm doing currently, which may seem uninteresting, to lead up to something so much bigger and so much greater, like knowing that the sun can collapse at any moment.
Yeah. Because like, we're not learning the area of a trapezium because we're going to need it. We're learning because they want us to be mathematical thinkers, scientific thinkers, technological thinkers, engineering thinkers. And that is because the people who work in STEM, they're not just smart or good at memorizing stuff. They're creative, they're curious, they know how to ask the right questions, and they're not afraid to find the answers.
And I also think related to STEM is very much problem solving. Like, one of the big things to STEM is problem solving. And especially, I think, with math, I think science is a bit more explanations behind it and, like, describing and explaining things that occur. But math is very much about problem solving. I think also technology with, like, codes and solving and, like, debugging programs and stuff.
Yeah, it's all about using your brain to find the problem, and it's not served to you on a platter. It's about using the most basic rules and extrapolating that into what we know. Because the most crazy quadratic equation, the people who can solve those kinds of things, they were once told, first you take away the x's from one side to leave the number on the other side, and then you can take away all the like terms. And they learned that, and that enabled them to be who they are and solve the things they can, because everything builds on top of each other, and you can trace it all back to the end point. And that's what STEM's about. It's about using your brain to build on stuff you already know to find the answer to things that you don't. And that can be as simple as what is X or how is life in our galaxy.
Yeah, that's such a good way to end it off. I think we're gonna end it there. I'm so glad to finally be back on it. I've been looking forward to this for so long. And just one thing before I end, I was trying to put this on the same day as I did last year's one, because the first one that we filmed last year was on Fibonacci sequence, and we did it on Fibonacci Day, which I thought was so cool, just for the first
novel.
one. But Fibonacci Day is still about a month away, and I didn't want to wait that long to get the first one out. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.